So here we are down on the mat, and on my little stand here I've got the Narwhal Nautilus, and this is the Pelagia Noctiluca version. I'm hoping I haven't mangled that too much. Just slowly turn this around just so you can get a look at the colours on here. We've got purples, we've got different shades of purples. There's some pale blue, some darker blue. We've got reds, but oranges. Loads of different colours in here. It's one of the things which I like about this. Yes, it looks busy, but there's so much choice of colour. It's always something new to look at. Let's take a look around the body. Up at the top here, we've got, it's a domed top, and we've got that brass coloured inset. We come down to the cap, so it very sharply tapers up. Then the cap itself is the same width all the way down to the band. The clip, let's look at the clip, and that's fairly stiff. I don't often put in a shirt pocket, so I'm not too worried about that. I do put it in my Galen leather folio, and it goes nicely over the loops. At the bottom of the cap, we've got this decorative band. I'm just going to slowly turn this around just so you can see that. Not sure if that's stamped or engraved. I'm assuming it would be stamped. There we go. The bottom of that band, there's a noticeable drop off down to the body. The body, same width all the way down. In here, we've got some portholes. These are really good for seeing the ink level. Now, I'm risking it with today's video because when I checked my portholes earlier on, I think I'm virtually out of ink. But I wanted to get this recorded with the current ink, and I'm not sure what colour ink I'm going to put in next. At the end of the body, we've got this brass here, this brass ring. And then we've got the piston mechanism. Aren't going to work this, as I said. I know it's virtually out of ink, so I don't want to throw what little is left in there out. The end of that piston mechanism, we've got another dome, like we saw on the top of the cap, and that completes the body. I think this is a really nice, attractive looking pen. It's an oversized pen, so it's bigger than you would expect. Let's fetch in my standard pens for our first comparison. So this shows you what I mean by it being an oversized pen. I've brought in a Pilot Metropolitan and a Lamy Safari. They're two pens that I try and fetch into every video, just so we've got a common standard of reference. I'm going to take the caps off. Let's take a look at them with the nibs. So I've tried to fetch the three pens in so the nibs are all lined up. This pen, it's got a number 6 size nib. It's got a goldy coloured nib. It certainly looks longer than what we see with the Safari and this Metropolitan. When it's unposted though, it's not that much longer than the Safari. Although it looks really long with the cap on, when you're actually using it, it's a lot shorter. Let's take a look at the nib itself. I'm just going to turn this around here. There we go. We've got this nice gold coloured nib. I think if anything I could complain, I'd like to have seen this more of a two-tone nib, but that's just personal choice. So what we've got there, at the top we've got a bit of decoration. We've got the breather hole. Underneath that we've got the Narwhal logo. We've got some decoration then on either side. Quite a pretty looking nib. I just would have liked it two-toned. Just pop that back. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to post the pens. So here I've got the Safari and the Metropolitan posted. This pen does not post. But when we compare it to these pens when they're posted, that's a lot smaller. But I very rarely use my pens posted, so for me it's irrelevant. I'm going to swap over the pens and fetch in some that are within the same price range. The two pens I've brought in, I thought, well, I can't post the Narwhal, so I won't bother posting either of these either. I brought in a Bennu Talisman. This is in the Dragon's Blood pattern. It's a really gorgeous sparkly pattern. I've also brought in a Twisby Draco. The Bennu cartridge converter. The Nautilus piston filler, and the Twisby, that's a piston filler as well. The Nautilus just ever so slightly longer. In terms of the nibs, we've got a number 6 Schmidt nib. We've got the Narwhal nib. And then we've got the TWSBI number 5 size nib. Just going to pop the caps on. With the cap on, again that Narwhal Nautilus is slightly longer than the other two. I'm now going to clear this off and I'm going to fetch in the rule of measurement. Here's my rule with the cap on, 14.9 centimetres. Take the cap off, 13.2 centimetres. As we've already discussed, it doesn't post. I'll swap this out and fetch in the scales of weighing. So here's the scales. The whole pen comes in at 39 grams. So nice hefty pen, you certainly know you're going to be using it. The body, 24 grams. The cap, 15 grams. This is such a nice pen. The ebonite material in here really makes it nice. It's got a nice tactile feel to it. You can feel that ebonite under your fingers when you're trying to rub up and down it. I'm going to get rid of this and then we'll fetch in our writing paper. So here's our writing paper for today. This is Ayush paper, made in India. It's 100 GSM paper. It's really nice and fountain pen friendly. As I've already discussed, this pen is very low on ink. I think there's enough in there though to get us through today's test. Let's take a try. So we have here a Narwhal Nautilus. The nib is extra broad. The price that I paid for this was 196 Australian dollars. The ink is by Pure Pens and it's called St. George's Cross. This to me is a really nice, bright, vibrant red ink. Let's look at our drying times. This is immediate. 10 seconds. 30 seconds. 1 minute. After a minute, still smudging quite a lot, I'm going to do a 2-minute test. After 2 minutes, yeah, we're nice and dry there. So as a combo, this is fairly wet. This Ayush paper is fairly thick and it's got a nice texture to it. So it's not coated like I would see with Rhodia paper. Just going to fetch the pen in. It takes 1, 1.5, 2, about 2 1/4 turns for that cap to come off. And as I said, when it's come off, it's nice. It fits nicely in my hand. It's got a nice width to it. You know, you can really feel the pen and it's so comfy to use. I like these oversized pens. Just going to move the mic down to the paper so you can hear the pen writing. That's very nice to write with. It's smooth. There's very little feedback coming off there. Even though this is a textured paper, you can't really feel that. I don't want to say it's like writing with an Apple Pencil on an iPad. It's not like glassy smooth, but there's very little in the way of feedback. It's one of the things that, again, if I was to be really, really picky, I'd like a bit more feedback in there. But that's because I like the tactile feel. I like the tactile nature of my writing. Let's look for any line variation. Not expecting anything. There's no pressure. There we are with some pressure. We're just really putting down a bit more ink. There's my S's. And then my flow test. This is an A4 sheet of paper. So we've got a long way to cover. And I am hoping and praying that the ink doesn't run out. There we go, we made it all the way across without any ink running out. I was really pleased with that. Just going to move this down slightly and turn it over. It's 100 GSM paper, but as you can see here, we've got nothing showing through at all. And this is an extra broad nib, so we're putting down a fair amount of ink. This is my cheap notebook. I mean, it is cheap. It was something like $8. And that's for a licensed one, you know. So we've got Spider-Man here. This part here, this is with this pen. Over here, that was me trying out some terracotta in a different pen. If we look over on the other side, we can see we've got this coming through. Cheap paper, I was expecting that. I would say this is maybe 70, possibly 80 GSM paper. So, yeah, on the cheaper paper, you will see it coming through to the other side. That notepad I brought in, that's what I call my rough book. So that's where I'm just jotting things down. So it's not really what I use for decent notes or decent note taking. That's literally thoughts as I have them, little things I want to remember. So I don't mind the fact that it shows through. Let's fetch the pen back in. I really like this pen. I like the ebonite material. It feels nice. As I said, I like the tactile nature of pens. I like the looks. When I first got it, I thought it looked a bit on the busy side. But as I've got used to it, as I've used it, you know, and seeing all these different colours. So we've got that reddish colour there, which is why I got away with using the red ink. We've got purples, we've got blues. I know I've been through this already. So nice. I love these portholes. Portholes to me add a bit of character to the actual pen. And that's one of the things I like. A lot of my other pens that have got ink windows, they don't look as interesting. This one does. I like the nib. It's a nice nib. I like the section. It fits nicely. It's not as if I'm squashed up, that my fingers are pressing against each other. It's got that nice bit of girth to it. Let's give this pen some scores. So we'll start with the pen looks. I've said it a number of times. Unusual colouring. It's alright. It's not quite me, but I can live with it. And I love the portholes. So for pen looks, I'm going to give this 8 out of 10. The writing experience. Nice and comfy in my hand. Nice to write with. Doesn't need to be posted. It's got plenty length on it. This is the nice thing with it being an oversized pen. It feels, to be honest, like it was made just for me. It was designed for me because that's how it just fits in with my hand and how I'm writing. It's got that very smooth nib. I'd like to have had a little bit more feedback on there. So I've got to ding the experience for that. But I'm still going to give this a 9 out of 10. It's so nice. Ink flow. I've had no issues with this. And I've used a fair number of different inks in this pen so far. You know, I've had blues, I've had greens. I've now got this gorgeous red. No issues at all. We've got a nice generous line. It's wet. I actually personally like wet inks. I don't see any feathering. Even on this cheap paper here. Very little feathering. Maybe round where I've done my loops. But in my normal scribbles on here, I see very little in the way of feathering. So again, performs quite nicely there. So for ink flow, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Value for money. This is always, and I know I say this every video, this is the interesting one. When I compare this to my Narwhal Schuylkill, which they were about 90 Aussie dollars, to my Narwhal Key Wests, which were about 80 Australian dollars. At nearly $200, this is expensive. I don't think it's overly expensive for what you get. It just looks it when you compare it with the other narwhals. I like the ebonite. It's a different material. Although I'm not covering it in here, I've got a Nautilus with a Jonathan Brooks resin. It's the most beautiful pen I've got. I'll do that as a separate focus though in a few weeks' time. I haven't had any quality control issues with this pen. To be honest, I've been lucky with all my narwhals, not had any quality control issues. But I have seen it reported from other people that they have. I can only tell you what I've experienced. Yeah, I love the ebonite. I love the colours. I love the range of nibs. I've got the extra broad on here. Narwhal seem to have been growing the range of nibs that they're providing. Value for money then. I'm actually going to say this is a 9 out of 10. I think for what you're paying, you're getting quality. For what you're paying, you're getting what you expect. So that means the overall score for this pen is 8.75 out of 10. And I think it really does deserve that because for me, As I've already said, it feels as if the pen is made for me. It's the perfect pen for what I use it for, and I really enjoy and love using this pen. So this is my fountain pen focus of the Narwhal Nautilus. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Do you have a Nautilus? Are you thinking about getting one? Why not drop a comment down below? I'd love to get people's thoughts and opinions on this pen. Please hit the thumbs up button. Every time you like, every time you comment, just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.